here's Alex again with a little celebratory video on, well, the future of Siebel CRM while looking at the past of Siebel CRM. So what you see on your screen might not be surprising. It's an account list in a Siebel application in the new Redwood theme, and it shows accounts, but these accounts you might recognize being sample data. And this is what I want to talk about today, the Siebel sample database. Now, if you're really as old as myself in Siebel years, you have used various versions of the Siebel sample database over the years. The last being shipped with IP16 as a separate installer using, well, the Oracle XE engine, and before that it was the Sybase engine. And that was a local database, so it ran locally on your machine. So fast forward to 2025, where is the Siebel database right now? Where can you download it? And the answer to that question is you cannot download the sample database installer separately, but you download it as a container. Yes, that's right. We are living in the age of containers for Siebel CRM. So go to Bookshelf, check the Deploying Siebel CRM Containers guide, as I do. And if you look carefully, there's a section on downloading the Siebel container images. So you have to be an Oracle Siebel customer or partner, and you can download these. That's an old version here, but you get basically, as a container download from Oracle, you get two files after extracting. The Siebel-version number tar gc is the Siebel container itself that you need to run a Siebel server or a cloud gateway or AI. And there's another container which is called deploy db19c. That version number might change. There's a Siebel version number also, so you obviously download the latest Siebel, not 22.6 today. And that here is the Siebel sample database as a container. And you might be interested, okay, how do I install it? So the guide tells us that you have to load the sample database. So first you need an Oracle database. So it says setting up Oracle database. And, well, being a container guide, you use a Oracle database as a container. You don't need to follow that, but on my environment, which I used in the beginning of the video, I do actually have Oracle 19c running as a container. Downloaded fresh from the container registry, Oracle container registry, so 19.3. And you might also notice that this is Podman desktop. So I'm using Podman on Windows, on the Windows Linux subsystem. And yes, that's not only an Oracle container, it also contains the Siebel sample database, which is loaded later. And you can also see I have 3 gateways, not started right now. I have an AI and I have a Siebel server container. I have Linux containers running on Windows. We are living in the future, really. So let's focus on the database today. So we will have a few more videos maybe using this environment. So I have my database, it's running, and it's exposing its ports on the machine as containers do. So what you have seen in terms of the application, well, let's go back one moment. You have seen that the Siebel containers are not running. So how on earth do I have a Siebel application in my browser pointing to localhost? So that means, yeah, I have the good old Siebel developer web client fired up. Just to celebrate the occasion, I installed the Siebel developer web client, gave me that nice list of Siebel applications in different languages, shortcuts, and I ran the automotive ENU. So, well, as the Siebel professional that you are, recognize these shortcuts. And that, of course, yeah, that's the Siebel client executable which we have for more than 2 decades now. And it connects to a database, and the database is the server database because it's a real Oracle Enterprise database. But that database contains the sample data from the Siebel sample database. So how does that work? So that is basically a reminiscence of the old Siebel days where you had your developer or mobile web client and you use it to run your applications locally. Not that I would recommend doing so today, but just for the sake of showing off my brand new Siebel sample database. So how do you actually create that sample database? Because when you download the container, or when you run the container of the Oracle registry, it's an empty Oracle pluggable database with no Siebel data, no tables whatsoever. So how do the Siebel tables get generated? How do we drop a sample database into that empty database? And the answer is described in the Deploying Siebel CRM Container Guide again. So the Container Guide tells you, okay, set up your database as a container, which is optional. It's fun, of course, to do it. And then you also download scripts from GitHub. Yes, there are Oracle scripts on GitHub. Let's check them out. So you go to the Oracle Siebel repositories on GitHub. There's a configuring Siebel repository, and that has a containerization Docker section. And if you followed the Siebel Hub for a while, you know that these are the scripts you can use to create your own Docker images. It still uses Docker, not Podman, but you can adopt, of course, those scripts to use Podman. And there's only Oracle Linux supported. Classic MDE is the path you go. And if you go down into the Manage folder, that's the files that the bookshelf guide refers to in Automate Architecture. And you see you have scripts for, well, preparing a Siebel architecture and launching Siebel. And you also have a DB folder there. And there's a dropdb19 script, which is very short actually. So you have to set a few parameters here. And then you run with your favorite container engine, such as Podman. So you run inside the Siebel network with that connection. So you know already the system password you have to set in your container, in your Oracle PDB database or pluggable database. And you have a file location, which is the persistence folder where files will be copied by running the container. And $1 is actually the name of the container which you loaded from Oracle support, that database container. So when you run that, what happens is it executes a few scripts, it connects to the Oracle database using that connector, and then it runs scripts to actually literally extract database files into this location, which is the persistence folder of your database container. And then it runs even more scripts to create a new service, a pluggable database as a service. So here you see my persistence folder for the Oracle database container. Here's the Oracle CDB, the default database, and it creates that folder sample, obviously for the Siebel sample database, and all it does is extract these files, and then there's an XML file which it uses to attach that pluggable database. It's all of that DBF files. That's the Siebel sample database. And it plugs it into the Oracle container database as a new database. So that Siebel DB alias that you have seen me using for running the developer web client, but of course you can connect your Siebel server to that, is now, you can put it in your TNS names, and I'm running off the local machine here, so connecting to port 1521, which is of course the container database in a container, and the service name is sample. So once let's say the helper container that you get from Oracle. Once you have executed that, you no longer need it. It just, well, extracts the data into that folder and creates that sample database, that pluggable database. And now we have a Siebel sample database. So do we really have one? Let's do one more proof. So let's fire up a command line and connect as the Siebel table owner to the Siebel DB, and we're connected. And let's do some select, for example, like this one. Select appvar from sappvar gives us the Siebel application version supported by this database. And of course, the container that you download from Oracle for the sample database has the most current, as of the release you download, application data. That means it is a database that includes the repository that is, or as of the version, in our case 25.1. It has the seed data for 25.1, the manifest data. So that's the reason why I can successfully, of course, use the Redwood theme. It is a complete sample database with all the repository data in it. And of course, it's a real Oracle enterprise database, so I can also fire up my environment here, my Siebel environment running on that database, so I can experiment with Siebel containers in the comfort of a Windows virtual machine, thanks to, well, the future we are living in. So hope you enjoyed this glimpse into how to run the sample database in modern Siebel versions. So as a container or not, but you need to download one container from Oracle to populate your database. So that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Take care and bye-bye.